Turning to post-Roe America, and our politics lead and the push to codify into law possibly vulnerable rights that the Supreme Court had previously affirmed, such as the right of same-sex couples to get married. Shortly after the House passed a bill that would have afforded such protections to LGBTQ couples earlier this week, reporters caught up with Republican Florida Senator Marco Rubio as he was getting on an elevator to find out how he was going to vote. Rubio, who is up for re-election this year, told journalists that the bill was nothing more than a, quote, stupid waste of time. Those remarks as he was getting on an elevator with the first openly gay senator ever elected to Congress, Wisconsin Democrat Tammy Baldwin. And Senator Baldwin joins us now. So, Senator, what did you say when he got on the elevator?
Well, of course, I had to make an elevator pitch, right? I only had a short time, but he was kind of shocked, I think, to see me standing there after talking with your reporter. And I really did talk about why it's needed at this point in time and why it's not a waste of time to the many gay and interracial couples that live in Florida. What is, he's obviously not convinced, but I said, we'll be talking. But as you know, I am working very hard to identify 60-vote majority in order to pass this legislation to safeguard these rights, and I'm going to continue doing that job.
So it sounds as though, even though he had just said a vote on whether or not you can legally get married to whoever you want, even though he said that in your presence was a stupid waste of time, it sounds like your approach to him was not one of anger, but one of reason. Is that? Am I reading you correctly?
Yes. So once the Supreme Court decided in the Dobbs case that the constitutional right to privacy no longer exists, and when Justice Clarence Thomas went a bit further in saying this court should revisit all the cases decided under similar constitutional arguments, it put in jeopardy our right to access contraception. It put in jeopardy same-sex marriage, frankly, interracial marriage, and other rights that have been decided, again, under the same constitutional construct. And so it's very important that we pass legislation to safeguard the right of marriage equality and access to contraception, et cetera. And the House is doing just that. I want the Senate to join the House in their bold bipartisan action last Tuesday. I want the Senate to do that as soon as possible.
So, as you know, we have Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives on the lead. And I just to tell you what a conservative or a Republican might say in response to what you just said, they would say, first of all, yes, Clarence Thomas wrote that, but Samuel Alito, who wrote the Dobbs opinion, said that basically, Clarence Thomas is wrong. We're not going to revisit all those other cases. They would, so that's one. That this issue Dobbs is different because it's issues of life as opposed to the other things: contraception, sodomy, and same-sex marriage. And then second, you brought up interracial marriage, Loving versus Virginia, which Clarence Thomas, who was married to a white woman, did not bring up. So how would you respond to that? Their basic argument is Democrats are just doing this to scare people, to try to get their voters to the polls. This is not a real threat.
Well, this isn't a partisan issue at all. And in fact, that's why I feel very hopeful that we will have more than 60 votes in order to codify the Respect for Marriage Act. But I could tell you that a case as significant as the overturning of Roe versus Wade in Dobbs, that overturns 49 years of precedent. Women in America have less freedom today than their mothers and grandmothers had. And there has been much written already about the vulnerability of other rights that were decided in the same manner as the court approached Dobbs. And so there is a lot of fear. There's a lot of, there's certainly full understanding that were it not for the Obergefell decision, which created marriage equality in the U.S., that there are many states that wouldn't have that right. And so this is simply a bill to say that the full faith and credit of the United States will be placed in the legal enactments of other states, and it will require recognition, and it's a very important step forward. And we can't forget, it wasn't so long ago that we were still working to try to legislate marriage equality.
Right.
And marriage is something that confers hundreds of rights and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Things like being able to visit your spouse in the hospital if they're ill versus being viewed as a legal stranger. And so these are real life things that we need to fight for.
And I know your fellow Wisconsin Senator, Republican Ron Johnson, just announced last night that if the bill comes up, he will vote in support of it. But my understanding is right now you need 10 Republicans and you only have 5. Is that right?
I think there's a number of folks who are choosing to make their announcement on their own time. I've had some encouraging conversations where we started the conversation. They're going to read the bill. We'll talk either later this weekend or early next week. But I think we're getting really close.
All right, Democrat from Wisconsin, Senator Tammy Baldwin, thank you so much. And we should note, we reached out to Senator Rubio to come on as well. He has an invitation to join us anytime to discuss this or anything he wants.